Hi, it's Nikki here from Happy Hormones for Life, and today I want to talk about IBS. April is IBS Awareness Month, and IBS I'm seeing more and more in clinic, especially with the women of perimenopausal age, because it does tend to flare up at this time. And a lot of women I speak to, I'm asking them lots of symptoms about their hormones, and then I get to the digestive side of things because that always impacts hormones. And many women say, "Oh yes, well I've had IBS for years." I'm like, oh, wow, really? What does that look like for you? And for many women, it's different. But what I'm finding is that women have been suffering and are suffering for years and years and years without any real solutions, because IBS actually means irritable bowel syndrome. And it's a symptom, it's a syndrome in terms of it's a set of symptoms that you have from a long list. And it's where, those symptoms aren't really contributing to cancer or inflammatory bowel disease. So you may have had some investigations, colonoscopy or anything like that. And they can't find anything, basically. They can't find anything wrong with you, but you're still having symptoms. So you get a label of IBS, and then you're left to really manage it on your own. There are some drugs that can help. But whatever's happening is they're not really looking at the root cause. So that's really what I want to talk about today is what if we could find the root cause for it, and that's what we help you do, then you can have a fighting chance of actually getting to the bottom of it and resolving it. So what are the root causes? Well, the first one I want to talk about is gut flora imbalance. Now, we know we are inundated with microbes. We have a whole ecosystem living in our intestines and our digestive system that are doing a fantastic job. So there's something like 100 trillion or something like that. The number is out there somewhere and probably growing, of different species and different microbes and organisms that help us function. They have a whole load of roles to play, but they can go wrong. They can get out of balance. There are beneficial species and there are not so beneficial, and they're supposed to live nicely together and be balanced. And this balance can go wrong, and we call this dysbiosis. And it can be there can be a lot of reasons for an imbalance, and it can be diet, it can be too many antibiotics, it can be other medications, it can be stress, it can be toxins, all that sort of stuff can allow that balance to be taken over by the bad bacteria or whatever. They're not really bad, but there's too many of those kind of species and not enough of your good guys. So that's one area we need to look at. The second area is something that happens to us as we get older. We get less and less stomach acid. Now, without enough stomach acid, you can't digest your food properly. You need hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes. They're secreted whenever you start to eat food to help break down that food and pass it down the system. And if it's not digested properly, it can sit in the gut too long. It can cause gas, bloating, indigestion, and the body can also start to react to these foreign particles and cause an immune reaction. So that's another area that we need to look at, low stomach acid. The third one is, and it's a big one, is food sensitivities or food intolerances. Now, these are very different from allergies. Allergies are dangerous, and you obviously need to, that's a whole separate section, actually. These are food intolerances, sensitivities that cause your body to react and launch a bit of an immune response against them. So they're not immediately dangerous, but they can cause a lot of symptoms, and over time they can be quite damaging. It's when you don't have the particular enzymes available to digest the food that you're eating. So the big ones are gluten, dairy, corn, soy, eggs. Those are the kind of top 5 that people tend to react to. But the top 2 are obviously gluten and dairy, and the top 1, in my view, is always gluten. So it doesn't mean everybody reacts to them, but if you have a sensitivity, it can cause inflammation. So the immune system causes inflammation just like it would if you've had an injury, but it's just on the inside of your gut instead of on the outside, so you can't see it. The fourth area is something called leaky gut, and you might have heard of that. The official name for it is intestinal impermeability, but we say leaky gut because that's a big word and I often say it. And this is where your gut lining is meant to be a nice, smooth lining with exactly the right tiny perforations to be able to let food, nutrients in and waste out. And what can happen when you've got inflammation or food sensitivities or any of the things I've just talked about is that you can get these bigger perforations. So instead of a sieve, it starts looking like a colander, right? So, and what that means is that you can get waste particles, undigested food, toxins leaking in through the digestive tract into the bloodstream where they are not supposed to be. And then that stimulates your immune system to react because it doesn't recognize these things as natural. And then that can promote more inflammation, raise cortisol, and can actually lead to autoimmune conditions. Like, there are hundreds of them now: rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, diabetes type 1, Hashimoto's with pituithyroid or Graves', celiac disease, Crohn's disease, psoriasis, MS. There are hundreds of autoimmune conditions, and they're all related to this overreaction of your immune system, and that can come from the gut. So those are the main ones that we look for when we're looking for to resolve IBS symptoms, is where is it coming from? What's the root cause? Now, some of the things that can actually contribute to this are obviously the impact of modern life and stuff we do on a daily basis. So your diet, if it's too high in refined carbs and sugar, that's going to feed the bad bacteria and crowd out the beneficial ones. If you haven't got enough fiber in your diet, so fiber helps to feed the good guys, and if you haven't got enough, then again they're going to be a bit starved. Probiotic foods as well, fermented foods, things like that. If you know, in the old days we used to preserve a lot of foods because we didn't have refrigeration, so that enabled our bodies to feed off that fermentation and feed the good guys and give them a lot of probiotics. Now, a lot of food processing has not helped us either, with additives, preservatives, colorings, all that sort of stuff. That can actually increase inflammation in your system, and that can alter the delicate balance of the bacteria as well. Now, obviously, gluten and other possibly inflammatory foods, if you're sensitive to them, can cause this as well. And in alcohol, and although, you know, it can be a nice de-stressor, it actually can irritate your gut lining and impair your liver function. So that's going to mess with your hormones as well. So lots of things. Stress is a big one. Now, stress, we feel things in the gut when we're stressed, right? So we'll have those exam nerves or the butterflies or the gut feel or whatever that is. That is your stress response happening in the gut. And because, you know, we have an enteric nervous system, and we have an awful lot of nerves in the gut area, and they're totally affected by your stress levels. So if you have any stress in your life, then you're more likely to have digestive issues, because if your body's in survival mode, the last thing it's going to worry about is digesting your food, right? That's just the way it is. So what do we do about gut issues and IBS and all of that? Because it's not something, you know, it's something a lot of women put up with, and men obviously, but it's not something you have to put up with. There are ways you can get around it and resolve it. First thing to do is watch your digestive system, digest your food properly. So eat slowly. Now, how many times do we bolt our food down, especially when we're busy? So eating slowly, and there's a whole movement called mindful eating, which is more, you know, being really aware of what you're eating, and just, but you don't have to go to those extremes, but just, you know, set aside 10-15 minutes to have your meal instead of doing it while you're working or on the computer or whatever you're doing. So that really helps, because the first stage of digestion is in the mouth. So once you chew and you're conscious of eating, you're going to have more stomach acid down here, because that's going to stimulate the production of stomach acid and enzymes, and it's going to help the whole way down. Stress management, absolutely key. Deep breathing. Do your stress management every day. Do that 10 minutes to yourself of deep breathing or mindfulness or meditation or whatever it is that switches off your stress response. It's going to really help your digestion. Removing the food triggers. So if you get any kind of symptoms of bloating or pain or diarrhea or constipation, anything like that, then you know, you've got to be looking at what you're eating before that happens. And if it tends to be wheat-based, like pasta or bread or crackers or whatever it is that's got gluten in, then you might want to try an elimination diet for a few weeks to see if that stops, because more often than not, that bloating is down to the food you're eating. Medications can be problematic. So antibiotics, we know, strip out all your bacteria, good and bad. So of course, if you have a very dangerous bacterial infection, you're going to need those antibiotics. But you're going to need some probiotics to replace the good bacteria. So if you have to take antibiotics, then always take a good course of probiotics and take them at night, so that you're not competing with because they'll kill the probiotics if you take them at the same time, which makes sense. And eating lots of fiber, eating more fiber. Fiber is the stuff that feeds your good bacteria. So we want lots of fiber, and most fiber is found in whole grains and not gluten if you're sensitive, and pulses and fruit and veg. So that if you can get more of those in your diet, you're going to be feeding those good bacteria. The other thing that feeds good bacteria is probiotic foods, so fermented foods like sauerkraut. My favorite at the moment is kefir. Can't get enough of that stuff. I'm buying that lovely brand called Beautiful. I don't mind giving them a shout out because they are a fantastic brand company, and their fermented kefir is absolutely delicious, especially the brown one. Just a little tip. For other fermented foods, like things like miso and kimchi, I'm not a great fan of those foods, but if you are, then get them in your diet. Prebiotic foods are really important as well. So these are things that feed the good bacteria really, really well. It's their favorite foods. And these are things like leeks, onions, garlic, and something you might be surprised about, actually, green bananas, so unripe bananas, and cold cooked potatoes. Now, I've always given people the advice that don't eat too many white potatoes because they raise your blood sugar. But actually, when they're cooked and cold, like in a cold potato salad, they've got something in them called resistant starch. And your good bacteria absolutely love it. It's like giving them Haagen-Dazs ice cream. But they absolutely love the cold potatoes. So go ahead with the cold potatoes. I'm putting it on all my diet plans now. So alcohol, just beware of what it can do to your gut lining. Always have alcohol with food because that will help to reduce any of that damage. And check yourself for infection. If you've had IBS for years and it's not to do with food sensitivity, or you've tried an elimination diet and you've still got it, then you're more than likely to have an underlying infection, a dysbiosis, the imbalance. And we do state-of-the-art stool testing that the NHS can't offer, that is phenomenal. It just looks at every single, not every species, but all the main species of yeast, bacteria, fungus, parasites, viruses that can be underlying and kind of flare up every now and then, and it can really be the root cause of all your symptoms. So if you've got constipation, diarrhea, bloating, gas, heartburn, reflux, pain, cramps, bleeding gums, those are just the symptoms, the digestive symptoms, and there's a lot more actually as well. But systemic, if you've got those symptoms, you definitely need to be doing some of this stuff. If you haven't got any digestive symptoms, you could still have an imbalanced gut, because the gut has a direct link to the rest of the body. So if there's inflammation in the gut, it does tend to spread. So if you've got other common symptoms are headaches or migraines, joint pain or muscle pain, like I said, gum disease or bleeding gums, depression, anxiety, brain fog, mood swings, fatigue that's unexplained, weight gain that's unexplained, poor sleep, or any autoimmune conditions like psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, Graves', MS, diabetes type 1, lupus, any of the ones I've mentioned, they are all autoimmune conditions, and the roots are usually in the gut. So those are symptoms that are not directly linked to your digestion, but can also be problematic. So always worth investigating the root cause. If you want any help with that, do contact us, PM me underneath, or go to the website happyhormonesforlife.com/contact, and we'll set up a call and we can talk you through the options. Hope you've enjoyed that. If you have any questions, post them underneath. Do subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll get notified of any new videos, and have a great day. Bye.